Alright, let's get into the news then. Our top story this week is, of course, the game between title rivals Manchester City and Arsenal. This game was expected to be incredibly dull, but actually really lived up to the hype.
Yeah, very much so, and I think that the important thing is that you have to just look at the game. Look just at the game. I think it was a brilliant fixture. The way it turned out was pretty solid, I think, in terms of the fact that you saw the two title rivals going head to head, and it was so competitive. It was such a close game, obviously, in terms of the result and the first half, and then you saw this weird second half that was just brilliant to watch from a neutral point of view. It was a really enjoyable game. It had everything you wanted it to have for a title fighting game. It had you had the red card, you had the fighting, you had the goals, you had the late drama. It had everything you wanted from a game of the magnitude.
Yeah, definitely so. It's a very tight game, 2-2 in the end. Do you think Arsenal deserve to win the match then? Because I think that's the discourse that's been really dominating social media, is that Arsenal were fantastic in this game. They deserve to win it. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I think that's a really tough question because, for me, Arsenal defended well. Don't get it wrong, but Man City have got a lot of questions to ask themselves because they just didn't do anything. They just and this is where the problem comes with how Pep plays, how City play. It was just constant passing around the penalty area. City had the quality to absolutely batter Arsenal. In the way Arsenal played, City have the quality in attack to score loads of... Could have scored, for me, they could have scored 3 or 4. They really could have. But it was the fact that it was pass. And I can't remember if it was Gary Neville or Jamie Carragher who pointed out that the fact that because of all the passing, the best shooting position was falling to Ruben Diaz on the edge of the area. The fact that Ruben Diaz is on the edge of the area is a joke. As how that game's come to.
Yeah.
But why is it Ruben Diaz? City just didn't think about it. Because for me, they've got so many players, Haaland, Foden, whoever it is in the team, who can score from outside the area, because they had time to shoot. They really could have had shots in the area. But because of the way I think City let themselves down. Arsenal were good, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I feel like it's more on the fact that City just didn't take the opportunity to win the game, and Arsenal defended well, but they also got away with one.
Yeah, I've loved the discourse around the fact that City should have just been lumping balls into the box and stuff like that, as though Pep Guardiola hasn't thought, maybe we'll just lump the ball into the box. But I found that quite amusing. I don't think that would have worked. I've seen a lot of people say, just cross the ball in and you'll get it in eventually.
Well, don't do that, but shoot.
Well, yeah, and what they could have done, perhaps, is drop Foden and Bernardo and use them more as conductors, so they'd sit on the edge. Because they were so high that they didn't really need to defend transitions. They would have been okay with those players to defend transitions anyway, because Arsenal weren't running forwards. No. They weren't on the desperate to counter-attack, and they could have recycled play. And that would have allowed you to put Ruben Diaz, Cavadio in the box. Yeah. But I don't think whipping balls to the box would have worked. Arsenal were incredibly good in the air. You've got Raya, who is the best in the world, probably, as a goalkeeper for claiming crosses. And I think that they would have just kept putting the ball in and losing it. And Arsenal, with 5 at the back, weren't going to lose a header in there. So, yeah, I think in that regard, that wouldn't have worked. They did well to score in the end, even if the goal they scored was a bit scrappy, a bit messy. But yeah, in my opinion, Arsenal deserved to win it. They were absolutely phenomenal. And I know they got bombarded in the second half, but they set up exactly how they needed to once they'd gone down to 10 players. If they tried to play against Manchester City, they would have lost the game. And I think a win for Arsenal would have been a merited game because they were fantastic in the first half. The fact they actually came and played against Manchester City rather than sitting back, rather than sitting deep, I think is very impressive. Then the red card happens and they have to play deep. And I know people have said, even Bernardo said in he did an interview, and he was saying how the difference between Arsenal and Liverpool is that Liverpool have won Champions League, won Premier Leagues, and that they would play against Manchester City. Arsenal hadn't won those and just set up defensively. But in the second half, I don't think there was a lot more they could have done. I thought they did so well to relieve or to withstand all that pressure for ages, and then eventually they cracked. But yeah, it was interesting goals. Haaland scored a very archetypal Haaland goal. He just sort of found himself in acres, which is pretty poor defending from Arsenal. But you can't really criticise the defending this season. They are the best defensive team in the league by a distance. But That was a fairly archetypal Haaland goal. Then we had the screamer from Calafiori, which really spun the game on its head. And then obviously the corner from Arsenal. I did enjoy Roy Keane describing it as he just wanted it more, as though Arsenal's set-piece coach hasn't carefully considered and manipulated a situation where Gabriel is unmarked at the back post, rather than they just lump it in and Gabriel's desperate to get there. But yeah, and I did see a lot of people discussing whether it should have been a foul on Ederson, because they do crowd around the goalkeeper, Arsenal, but I don't think he was blocked in any way. The more interesting debates have come from the various red cards and potential red cards and all that discourse. So Trossard's red card, do you think it was fair?
100%. 100%. I think this has been my biggest problem with the game, is the fact that Arsenal have put all the blame on Michael Oliver. I mean, I know it's not the greatest, but the bloke from AFTV, or I can't remember his name now, saying that Michael Oliver should never referee an Arsenal game again because it's always him. Goldbridge, you see Goldbridge's rant about Michael Oliver, where he listed every wrong decision that he made over the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? Like referees do make mistakes, human error is going to come into games.
Is that if Goldbridge could do that, he listed like 13 high profile. You could do that for every referee, it would be exactly the same. So I don't know what Goldbridge's point was there. He knew what he was doing. He was just having a rant.
It just seems to be this belief that referees should be absolutely flawless, and I don't really understand how. I get that there's a lot of frustration. We are going to criticise referees because some of the calls this weekend were absolutely abysmal, and they should be called out. The problem with the discussion around refereeing, though, is that nothing will change if we keep over-dramatising small errors. And we have it especially in competitions where there isn't VAR. We have it where these small human errors aren't going to be part of the game without video assistant referees, even with VAR, because the people using VAR are fucking clueless. But there are going to be those sort of decisions that don't go the way it should, because there are small bits of human error. You are watching it in real time rather than on a replay where you can slow it down, you can see everything a bit more clearly. So there are going to be small little errors here and there. I thought the Trossard one was spot on, though, and that's just applying the rules correctly. People can slag off Oliver all they want, but a lot of the argument has been that this shouldn't be a red card. Oliver can't give something because he doesn't think it should be a red card. Trossard was on a yellow card. Not only does he commit a foul, which I don't think was a yellow card challenge, but he then kicks the ball away. What does he expect to happen?
He's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot.
I don't think any Arsenal fan is using logic when they say that Oliver had a bad game, because I don't think there's any more. He didn't have a choice in that situation. We saw the same with the referee who sent off Declan Rice. He was saying how he didn't want to do it, but by the letter of the law, Rice had committed a second yellow card offence. So I get that people are frustrated by the delaying of the restart rule. Just don't kick the ball away. It is so simple.
And that's the thing with Trossard. Trossard has to be an idiot. He has to be an absolute idiot, because I think not even any league, most leagues in the world, he tripped someone up, got booked. That's expected. That's going to happen in non-league wherever. And then you make a foul and kick the ball away after you watch you watch your teammate get sent off for it the week before, 2 weeks before. You have to be clueless. Trossard, he's such an idiot. I don't get what went through his brain. He must be stupid for what he did. There is no defence. I don't get I don't get how Arteta could hug him as he walked off the pitch. If that was my player, I'd be absolutely fuming, because to be that brain dead in such a big game is unbelievable.
But it depends on the management style, and we know that Trossard struggled with his confidence, so I can see why he would want to do that. And also, we've seen Trossard's frustrations at not playing, and you don't want to fracture that relationship anymore, so I can understand that. I think a lot of it is just that adrenaline in the moment. You just smash the ball away because you're frustrated that you've committed a foul, but you just don't do it. That's what they've got to learn. Arsenal have been on the receiving end of that now. Two matches of the last 3. They can't. That's what you've got to do. It's just not kick the ball away. And then I've seen people compare it to the Jeremy Doku one, which I thought was silly, because you can literally see, if you watch the actual clip rather than a zoomed in one that Arsenal fans are just sharing around on social media, you can see the referee point over to where the actual foul is and Doku kick it over there. It's just that Arsenal decide they want to take the foul slightly higher than that.
Yeah.
And so, I think that one's absolutely ridiculous. But overall, Arsenal played very well, and I think it shows that they've got title credentials this year that perhaps they haven't in other years. They are here to genuinely compete for the title, rather than show that they don't want to play against Man City and are good in most other games but have a few slip-ups. They were genuinely very good in that game, and I think they are there now with Manchester City. I think that sometimes they can't kill games off in this way City do. There isn't as much inevitability about Arsenal's attack because they rely way too heavily on Bukayo Saka, and they don't really. Martinelli's not had a great season. He got the assist again for Calafiore's goal, but he's not really. That doesn't show an awful lot. And then Havertz, Jesus, Trossard, all a bit inconsistent. So I don't think they've got the inevitability that City do because Haaland just scores every game. But they're definitely a very good side, and Haaland obviously scoring again. Are we surprised? Stones coming on, getting that winner, or his first start, I think, in the Premier League this season, got that winning goal. But good for Man City. Arsenal, I think, will be frustrated, but ultimately they've got none but themselves to blame. And they did really well. They should have won, but they didn't. That's football. Let's move on to our next game then. West Ham 0, Chelsea 3, the 12:30 that started this game week. Chelsea playing some really good football.
They did. And to be honest, I think it was another really good performance for Chelsea under Enzo Maresca, and it kind of, I think, shows how their season started really, really well. I mean, it was a bizarre game for West Ham, and that needs to be looked at from Lopetegui, because I don't know what was really going on for the Hammers. But from Chelsea, they had a game plan, they executed it superbly. They looked defensively solid, which is, I don't think has been said about Chelsea over the last year and a half. So that was a massive step in the right direction, because Robert Sanchez looks like he grew his hands back and he can save things, and the back four looked pretty decent, even if Fofana maybe did have a bit of a tough game at right back. I think just overall from Chelsea, everyone performed, and I think that was the difference, is that it wasn't individual quality that won them the game. Like it was last season, Palmer would come up with a brilliant goal, or it would be a brilliant pass from Caicedo that would just win them the game. It was a complete performance from everyone on the pitch, and I think you have to give Chelsea credit for that.
Yeah, definitely. I thought Chelsea were great. A lot of people have asked me afterwards, who perhaps didn't watch the game, were Chelsea very good? Were West Ham very bad? Or was it a bit of both? And I think it was ultimately a bit of both. Chelsea, absolutely phenomenal. I think they've had a great start to the season. You take out the Crystal Palace game, I think they've done incredibly well. I don't really care about the City match. They were never going to beat Man City. Palace, I think they'll be frustrated by, but equally, they drew there when they probably should have won, but equally they beat Bournemouth when they probably shouldn't have. So they've not done too badly so far, Chelsea. Nicholas Jackson is someone I want to touch on, because what a start to the season for him. He's been just on fire. He got 2 goals in this game again. His finishing looks really clinical. He looks composed in front of goal. His timing and movement has always been there. He's always been he's already had some really exciting attributes. He's just not been very well rounded. This season, his finishing seems to be on it. Dare I say it, if this continues, I think he's up there as one of the best strikers in the league.
Potentially.
And with the way he's taking his goals at the moment, it looks incredible.
And I think that's huge, because there was a majority, there's a lot of Chelsea fans that were begging for a striker, spent the whole summer going, we want Osimhen, we want this player, get a striker.
Tony, who both ended up playing in not very competitive leagues.
Exactly, and Nick Jackson has clearly turned up this season, has wanted to silence those thoughts, and now I think there's a lot of Chelsea fans who are backtracking, who desperately wanted a striker because Jackson wasn't good enough. I mean, the bloke's gone and scored 4 goals in 5 games. You have to give him his credit. That's incredible form. That is absolutely brilliant numbers. And if he keeps that up, he's going to put up a scary total this season. And if he does keep up this goal-scoring form, then Chelsea are going to put up going to be in a very, very strong position. But I think, the fact that, as I said, I think last season that attack was led by the quality of Palmer. But now, as we've seen, that players like Madueke scored a hat-trick this season. Jackson's got 4 goals in 5 games. The other players in that kind of front four are really starting to contribute for Chelsea, and that's massive, because it means Palmer is still going to play brilliantly well. We know how good Cole Palmer is, but he's got other players performing around him. Everyone's contributions are just going to skyrocket.
Yeah, I mean, I've rated Jackson constantly since he joined Chelsea. Really, there's always been aspects of his game that have been very impressive, and I get that was a bit of a hipster take last season, because his finishing wasn't there, and so for a lot of fans, he was a source of frustration. I've always rated him. Now, though, I think if you don't rate him, you're blinded by some sort of agenda, because there are so many positive aspects of his game, and now he's finishing off his chances as well. How can you not rate the lad? He's playing so well at the moment, and I think he's a top player. So very excited to see him going forwards. And as you say, lots of depth now in that Chelsea attack. It's what's making it so strong. If they are in the situation where they need a goal in the last 20 minutes, we saw it against Bournemouth, for example, they can bring on players. I mean, we saw them start with Sancho, Palmer, Madueke, and Jackson, another good performance for Jadon Sancho, by the way. Loving watching him in a Chelsea shirt.
Yeah.
He's a player I've always loved, Jadon Sancho.
I'm glad they saved
This
him.
is genuinely like, a lot of people are frustrated by the squad building aspects of it. But I think this is genuinely my favourite Chelsea team. They're just bringing in players I absolutely adore. I've always rated João Felix, despite the fact I don't think his end product's ever been there. I've always loved Jadon Sancho. I was desperate for him to join Chelsea in the summer, where he was linked with Manchester United, and Chelsea ultimately went to United, and I was gutted about that. Love the fact he's now at Chelsea. Love the Chelsea team. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the difference. There is now a connection with the club again. I think that for match-going fans, because Chelsea are playing well, because they're seeing progress, they're seeing what Maresca's trying to do, we're winning games, there is that winning feeling back, that buzz at the bridge again. I think that's a real positive. I think even online, the toxicity has gone down a little bit. There's still a lot of toxicity, but that's Chelsea. Yeah. It's Twitter for you. It's all Twitter, to be fair. Ignore Twitter, basically, what we learn from life. But yeah, the player I want to touch on, someone who hasn't perhaps been given his plaudits this season, or last season, to be fair, Moise Caicedo.
Yes.
I think if you were to ignore, you don't even need to ignore, but the last two player of the match awards for Chelsea games have been given to forwards, because obviously Chelsea's forwards have been playing very well. Yeah. However, I think Moise Caicedo has been the best player for Chelsea in both those games. His performance levels this season have just raised up another notch, and he's been absolutely superb.
Yeah, I think Caicedo was the victim of high-profile errors, and by that I mean...
But it was only for the first half of last season,
It was, and I think people did start to realise that coming in at 100 million, he was never going to live up to that, and then... we saw the massive error at Palace that handed them a goal.
Same thing, really.
Yeah, and we saw a couple other errors where I feel like that just kind of just blinded it. That was the focus. No one really focused on his performances. They went, oh, look at the errors he's making. What a joke. Spending 100 million on him. What a waste. But it's the consistency, and it's just the way he just operates himself on a football pitch is phenomenal. He just... he just looked class. I think it's classy. The way he's on a football pitch is elegant, it's classy. The way he plays, even when he does the dirty work, quite a little bit similar to N'Golo Kante in terms of when you watch Kante play, it was just so controlled.
The West Ham game was very shades of Kante, and actually the West Ham game is very poignant for me, because I remember when we played them at home at the start of last season, and he made that. It was the game which Kai Chukwuemeka scored in, and then Caicedo made a big error as soon as he came on for his debut. He made a big error, and Chelsea lost that game. And I think it's very poignant. You look a year on, and he looked so comfortable. But I thought he's been fantastic to start the season. I thought he was brilliant at the back end of last season. And actually, I saw a statistic the other day which kind of shocked me. But since February, Chelsea have lost to 2 teams in the league: Manchester City and Arsenal.
Wow.
Now, obviously, you can say they've had a good run, but how can you possibly argue Chelsea are playing badly in that run? The only people who can argue that are the board, who sat Pochettino. But Maresca's have started very, very well. They've got a decent run of games, admittedly, to start this season, but a couple nice ones up next, and then they're into a tough run. I think they've got Liverpool, Manchester United, Tottenham, Villa in the space of 4 consecutive games. I can't remember what order it's in, but they have got a bit of a tough run there. But what a start to the season, and if they can take momentum from that, a top 4 push looks very realistic this season. And perhaps, yes, there's that frustration that Pochettino has gone, or was gone, but I think Maresca is looking for now the right choice. I think, yes, Chelsea probably won't be able to beat City or Arsenal with Maresca because it's the same football. But when they play other teams, I do think they are looking really strong. And right now, City and Arsenal have gone clear. That's absolutely not for debate. But that 3rd, 4th spots, everything else for me is up for grabs right now. I don't think Liverpool have looked as good as they looked really good for the first weekend. Nottingham Forest was a big slip up, though. I don't think they were brilliant this weekend either. I mean, Nunes scored a screamer and Diaz looked good, but I still think that Liverpool, there is Bournemouth aren't that great this season, or haven't looked that great this season. So, yeah, I think that Liverpool, there is a potential they slip off. I think that place is up for grabs this season. It's going to be very interesting, and I don't think Manchester United or Tottenham are getting anywhere near it. So let's talk about those 2 clubs and VAR as a whole, because I think we'll probably touch on Tottenham and Man United more in the week as we build up to this. They play each other next weekend, of course. Manchester United, another incredibly poor game where they drew with Crystal Palace, where they lacked any sort of ingenuity or creativity or ability to play football in general. And Dean Henderson looked very good in the Crystal Palace net. As for Tottenham, they were clinical against Brentford. It was actually a really decent performance. But controversy in both those games for Tottenham and Manchester United. Let's start with Tottenham then and Vicario's handball. Now, nothing given from this. VAR seemingly blinded, as the media have put it. But I think there is a good explanation for it, isn't there, Harry?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think the problem is people will think that it's a red card. And that's the thing, it's and we'll think that VAR need to look at it and sort it out. But the thing is...
Can I pose a question before you answer with the actual rules? Regardless of what the rules are, should that be a red card?
No, absolutely not. Because Vicario's he's handled the ball, but he hasn't denied a goal scoring opportunity. He hasn't stopped anything major happening in terms of a Brentford. If he doesn't touch the ball with his hand, a Brentford player wasn't going to score. So then you treat it like a normal handball. Like if a player handballed it on the edge of the area, that's it. This is the same situation we're in. And I think that's the confusing thing, because it's a goalkeeper outside the area. People have confused it with in terms of a different ruling, but the way you have to treat it is exactly the same way as if a player just happened to handball it on the edge of the area. It would be nothing would come. It'd be a free kick and a yellow card, and that's what it should have been. So,
well, I think the in that sense, the Angus misdirected. A lot of people going, VAR is useless.
Exactly.
We should kill everyone who uses VAR. I think that's not the message it should be. It should be, how on earth has the referee not noticed that?
I don't know what Rob Jones saw, to be honest. I don't know what he was looking at.
If you watch it, Vicario goes up to claim it, he spills it, he then takes one swipe to try and push it forward, it doesn't really work, and he doesn't realise he's standing outside the box. Yeah. The first one's still in the box, but then that second push of the ball away that actually he does make a lot of contact with and does push it away, he's so far outside of his area.
Everything's out of the box.
I have no idea how Rob Jones has not noticed that, but... yeah, VAR, not in the wrong in my opinion. No. The stupid thing about VAR is that it can't interrupt if it's a yellow card offence. It can only for red cards. So, I mean, I get it, because you don't want to have too many interruptions from VAR, but equally... come on, if it's that obvious.
It's a weird one, because obviously the game would...
We shouldn't need it though. The
referee, exactly. That's the thing. Is that VAR has nothing to do with this situation. That's the frustrating thing. And this is, again, Twitter. Why? Because people on Twitter, as everyone knows, don't actually understand the situation before they comment on it. So everyone's commenting all this stuff, but it's nothing to do with it. VAR has nothing to do in this situation. Like, absolutely
it's
nothing.
Not a red card, and they can't do anything other than red card and goals.
Exactly, and if they checked they're a yellow card, then we'd have to stop the game every 30 seconds, because they'd go, is that foul a yellow card, or let's stop the game and have a look.
I do think in a situation like this, where it would have been a free kick in a really good position, I think maybe you can mitigate it, but the issue is, you have to have legislation in place. You can't just go, well, if the referee thinks it's a dodgy yellow card, then we should definitely give it.
I would say the thing would be is if they check it for because it's either nothing or a red card. What they probably did is they probably looked at that Vicario thing and they probably went no red card and then just played it on. What they should have done is said no red card, but we suggest a yellow and a free kick.
Well, that's the stupid thing, isn't it? Because they have to check it anyway to see if it's a red card, so it doesn't save any more time.
Yeah.
But I get the frustration. It's a bit of a weird situation. And let's talk about Martinez attempting to murder somebody then, because once again, a failure on the part of the referee, a failure on the part of VAR this one, because I have no idea how that isn't a straight red card. Yeah. Martinez jumps 2 feet in towards Daichi Kamada, and if he doesn't, I get people say, well, he didn't touch the ball, so he didn't touch the player, he didn't break his leg, so can't possibly be a red card. But serious foul play is endangering an opponent, and if he had made contact with Daichi Kamada's legs, Daichi Kamada would currently be out for the season with his legs snapped in two, because Lisandro Martinez has gone in recklessly, carelessly, and without thought. And it's a completely stupid tackle.
Yeah.
It's what needs to be eradicated from the game, and it's what has been eradicated from the game for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
You can't go in like that.
No.
Because people break legs then, and we don't want to see that in football. And I know people who, loved seeing tackles back in the day were, wear proper shin pads. No shin pad in the world is stopping Lisandro Martinez jumping in with 2 feet. So that was completely stupid for me. He should have been sent off. And Lisandro Martinez and Romero are two defenders that I will never be able to consider top quality because of their recklessness, because of their irrationality. You watch them play and you just think, what on earth are you doing?
Yeah.
What on earth are you doing? And I know there's a sort of cult love for Martinez and Manchester United because he wears his heart on his sleeve. He plays for the badge. He dies for the badge. But I would feel frustrated with him every time because jumping in like that is absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, and
it's the sort of tackle that should come in. That's a 3-match ban. Not
100%.
just a red card. That is a horrible, horrible tackle.
100%.
If he makes contact there, he doesn't play again until a good 5 weeks, I'd say.
He shouldn't. He doesn't have to make contact, and that's
he shouldn't. That's what I mean.
That's the thing. I think in terms of a sensible point of view, any normal person knows that you can't fly in like that. That's terrible. In terms of the actual ruling, it's all worded as attempts to, and he's attempted to hurt someone there because he's gone in for it like that. He's lucky that I don't know how he's got away with it. That's a straight red card. That is ridiculous. And that's the other new thing that obviously is very frustrating about the FA ruling is that, as they've come out and said, they can't do anything post-match because VAR did have a look at it. So technically, it's already been reviewed.
Just idiots.
So they can't give out any post-match penalties in either the Arsenal City game or the Tottenham game or the United game because they were all reviewed.
Yeah.
They've already been reviewed.
Yeah, I think that there's still a huge discussion to be had on VAR, on refereeing in the Premier League. I think it's a discussion that needs to be had in a rational way, though, because at the moment there is a lot of people very angry at a lot of different things, and I don't think there's a lot of rationality behind it.
No,
it's just a lot because of bias in football. Whatever, if anything goes against you, of course you're going to focus on that. And the problem is there's not many people online talking about it rationally because they all have their own biases.
Yeah,
even we have our own biases. We're going to be biased in one way or another. Everybody is. So it's just one of those where nothing's going to change unless a serious conversation is had about refereeing, where it isn't just, well, you didn't give me up my free kick in a FA Cup final 4 years ago, so now you're shit at your job. That's mental. Let's stop that. Collectively, let's stop that. Instead, let's go, this is a really clear and obvious decision that should have been dealt with by a referee. How has this mistake been allowed to happen? And work out why. Not just nitpicking at these tiny little things. Either way, let's review the Premier League table so far.
Let's look at the table.
Manchester City leading the way, of course, after their draw against Arsenal, rescued the point there. But it is very close to the top. 13 for City, 12 for Liverpool, 12 for Aston Villa, 11 for Arsenal, 10 for Chelsea, 10 for Newcastle. They're probably the favourites to be the top 6 right now. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended, probably not that exact order, but that 6 look above the rest at the moment.
Chance.
You've got Brighton in 7th, who I would have put up there, but they've just had a couple tough game weeks. Straws with Forest and Ipswich.
We haven't spoken about the Forest game. What the fuck was happening there as well? I want to talk about referees.
I have no idea.
Gibbs White's one. That's not a yellow card. It's not a foul. White, Nuno and Hurst were both sent off in the same 30 seconds. I don't know what happened there either. That game was so bizarre. You can't talk about it because no one has. We'll wait until it comes out, but no one has a clue what's happened in that scenario.
Yeah, we need 3 o'clock televised now because we've missed out on an absolute corker.
That was Sunday, wasn't it?
Oh, it was televised. Just missed it.
No one watched.
Well, I was going to say we were watching Man City Arsenal in the WSL, so missed that game. But yeah, interesting stuff that game was. Then of course Fulham in 9th. They've just sort of plodded along quite nicely. They've just beaten Newcastle, who. I mean, Newcastle, they're currently 6th and they've got 10 points, but I've not been convinced by Newcastle.
They should be joint top of City. They should have beaten
that game, realistically. Yeah,
and they could be top of the league.
But yeah, no, they've been, Newcastle have been a bit up and down. They beat a Tottenham side who are absolute dog shit, and so yeah, interesting stuff. Then we come to Tottenham and Manchester United, sat in 10th and 11th, both on 7 points. Manchester United, for now, have a neutral goal difference, 0 again. I mean, United are funny. But yeah, they've scored 5, they've conceded 5. They are really bad. They're just really bad. That's the only word to describe it as. 1-0 against Fulham on the opening day, they really were fortunate there. Xerxes coming on and winning it. They were crap against Brighton. They were crap even worse against Liverpool. They battered a terrible Southampton.
Luckily, they
drew 0-0 at Crystal Palace in a game that they couldn't. They created so many opportunities, had so many shots, but they were just a bit meh again.
They did beat Barnsley 7-0. So let's look at the priorities here. What a team. Also, Anthony's going to win the Ballon d'Or.
But yeah, Tottenham up next for them. I think that game is going to be an interesting one to watch.
Battle of who's
4:30.
worse.
Well, exactly. Both have been terrible to start this season. Then they've got Aston Villa 2 weeks after that, which I think could be a tough match for
Triple
them.
captain Ollie Watkins.
Oh, sorry, 2 weeks time, so the week after that. Then Brentford, who've been in form so far this season, so I think that'll be quite an interesting game. Then West Ham, then Chelsea. So not a nice next five. Like West Ham looked crap recently, but
South United.
it's not a nice. Yeah, I was going to say very true. Not a nice next five. But Brentford then in 12th. I don't think they've done badly at all. They've played City, Tottenham, and Liverpool, which they've lost all of those. They beat Southampton and Crystal Palace. I don't think they can do much more. They play West Ham, Wolves, Manchester United, Ipswich, and Fulham next. 5 teams who are all going to be in the bottom half this season, so they should win all of those. So Brentford are going to be top after that run.
Yeah.
And United in the relegation zone. Bournemouth in 13th. They've been, well, I don't really know how they're there. They've not really done much, have they? They've had tough fixtures, to be fair. They've played Chelsea, Liverpool, Newcastle. They got a draw against Newcastle. They beat Everton, because Everton... they didn't score to the 87th minute, and they won 3-2, so explain that one. Jesus Christ, Everton. And they rescued a late point against Forest. I don't think they've looked very good, though.
No.
They're struggling without Dominic Solanke. West Ham have looked terrible. I don't think even Lopetegui is very good. I'm not convinced by them. I wasn't convinced by his appointment in June. In May. I've not been convinced by them this season. Yeah, I mean their recruitment a bit of their recruitment was smart on paper, but a lot of it just didn't really make any sense. And everyone was going, well, they've signed Nicholas Füllkrug, and I'm like, well, yeah, but he's never played in the Premier League, and if you watched him playing anything that isn't the Bundesliga, he tends to have a lot of flaws. Yes, he kept smashing home goals in the Euros.
130 kilometres.
Just hit it as hard as he could. But his ball striking phenomenal, but his movement isn't good. And in the Premier League, you have to be able to move.
Yeah.
You have to be able to move. So, yeah, that was always doomed to fail. Leicester, surprisingly good.
Yeah.
They just keep drawing with everyone.
That's exactly when you need to stay in the league. You draw every game, 38 points, you probably stay up.
Based on the last few seasons, that should keep you in the division. Crystal Palace, I mean, they, again, a lot of draws, 3 draws,
Weird.
2 losses. I mean, yeah, they played Chelsea and Manchester United, but they've just not looked great. We watched them in the Carabao Cup against Norwich. They looked good in that game, but it was Norwich. The Mateta song. The new shape doesn't really work. The 4-3-4-1-2 hasn't really worked out yet, but we'll see. They're still adjusting to life after Elise and all that. Then as we approach the relegation zone, Ipswich, big point of the weekend. Yes. They probably should have lost that game to Southampton. Very fortunate, but they kept going. They got that point. If they want to stay up, that's the sort of game they need to be winning. Yeah. But I guess we'll see. Equally, they aren't in the relegation zone yet because that belongs to Southampton, Everton, and Wolves. I feel like Wolves' performances are going under the radar at the moment, but they have been truly awful. Any team they've had tough fixtures. Don't get me wrong. They lost to Arsenal and Chelsea in their first 2, but any team that conceded 6 to Chelsea, it's not a great look.
They're below Everton.
How?
Who Everton, by the way, after being battered in the first 2 game weeks, dropping 2 goal leads in the next 2, then went to Leicester and drew.
Yeah, they knocked out the cup on penalties. They scored after 12 minutes. You thought, could this be Everton's day? And then they went and conceded in the 75th.
I don't know what's worse, for Everton or Wolves. How are Wolves below Everton?
I don't know how Wolves are there. I know they got them just terrible because of the Chelsea game.
They've got Liverpool
They've played Villa, Newcastle, Chelsea, Arsenal. They're tough fixtures, but yeah, we'll see. Again, though,
to be fair,
they've played really tough games.
By match week 8, they would have played City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Villa, and Newcastle.
They played all the top 6.
That's unbelievable.
They would have played all the current top 6 by the 20th of October.
That's a horrible run. That's absolutely disgusting.
But then you look after that, and it's Brighton, Palace, Southampton, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham, Ipswich, Leicester, Manchester United, Tottenham, Nottingham Forest, all in the bottom half till January.
Yeah.
So lovely stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much yet for Wolves because they've had a really tough run of games. Yeah. But the issue is morale starts to drop now because of the poor results. So I think there'll be a bit of panic there, but calm. They've had horrible games. That is true. Had horrible games. Liverpool is again another horrible one. We will see what happens. Yes. But Wolves, wouldn't worry just yet. They might beat Brentford in the week after next, and then suddenly they're on 4 points. It doesn't look quite as dire, but yeah. Very tight, very interesting.
Yes.
Lots of stories already emerging from the Premier League this season. It's been a very exciting season already. So yeah, Good, let's keep it going. But that is everything for this week. We'll be back next week with more TFC news. We'll have another video coming out hopefully on Thursday. We've moved this now to a Tuesday, by the way, so if you're wondering why we're a day later than we were last week, we will now be putting out TFC news on a Tuesday, so look out for that every week. But that is us for today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.